Mud grips your boots before the sun comes up. It's not poetic mud. It's cold, sucking clay that steals heat through leather and wool, the kind that makes your calves ache before the first blow is struck. Somewhere ahead, unseen in the fog, 12,000 men are breathing the same damp air, tightening straps, whispering prayers they don't fully believe in. You are one mistake away from being trampled into this marsh and forgotten before noon. You stand among Henry Tudor's men, and the math already feels wrong. The ground slopes gently upward toward Ambion Hill, but the hill is invisible now, swallowed by a white wall of mist. You know they're up there anyway. You can feel it in the way your shoulders tense, in the way nobody jokes. Steel clicks softly as men test buckles and helm straps, the small sounds magnified by silence. Horses snort and stamp, nervous, their breath steaming like they know something humans pretend not to. The weight of armour presses down on your ribs. Not full plate, most of you don't have that luxury, but enough iron and leather to make breathing deliberate. Every inhale is work. Sweat starts early, trapped beneath layers meant to keep blades out, not heat. Your hands already ache from gripping a weapon you might not know how to use well enough. You've marched hundreds of miles for this moment. There is nowhere left to walk. A cannon booms. The sound doesn't arrive cleanly. It rolls through the fog like thunder trapped underground, followed by a concussion you feel in your chest before you hear it again with your ears. Another blast, then another. Somewhere to your left, a stone ball screams through the mist and slams into the earth with a wet, violent thud, throwing mud and grass into the air. It doesn't matter that the shot misses. What matters is the sound, the proof that the hill is alive and trying to kill you. Men flinch. A few swear. Nobody runs. Not yet. Someone shouts an order you can barely make out, and the line starts to move. Not forward in a proud march, but sideways first, skirting the marsh. Your boots sink deeper with every step. The ground pulls at you like it wants you to lie down and stay. You understand immediately why this matters. Horses hate this terrain. Heavy men fall here. If the enemy charges, they'll slow, and slow men die. The fog thins just enough for shapes to emerge. Banners. Armour-catching dull light. The English line is massive, a wall that seems to stretch forever. They look solid, confident, like they belong here. You feel small in comparison, a body in a crowd pretending to be an army. Then the arrows start. They hiss out of the mist, a sound like angry insects, and suddenly the air is full of movement. A man 2 steps ahead of you jerks backward as if yanked by a rope, an arrow buried in his throat. Blood sprays warm and shocking across your cheek. He tries to speak, makes a wet, gurgling noise, then collapses into the mud, eyes wide, hands clawing at nothing. Someone steps on his leg by accident and keeps moving. There is no time. You raise your shield too late, then realize too late doesn't matter. The arrows are already among you. They thud into wood, flesh, the ground. One slams into your shield hard enough to make your arm go numb. Another punches into a man's thigh and sticks there, vibrating. He screams, a high animal sound, until someone shoves him forward and he stumbles, limping, still screaming. The order comes again, closer now, urgent, and you push forward. The fog breaks in patches and suddenly the distance collapses. Men are right there, faces behind visors, teeth bared, eyes wild. The first collision is not a clash of swords like the stories promise. It's bodies slamming together, shields grinding, feet slipping. Someone's helmet cracks against yours and your vision flashes white. The smell hits next. Sweat, shit, iron and wet earth. The sound becomes unbearable. Metal striking metal. Men shouting names you don't know, screams that end abruptly. You swing your weapon because everyone else is swinging, because stopping means being swallowed. The impact travels up your arms and rattles your teeth. You don't know if you hit anything that matters. A billhook hooks a man's shoulder and yanks him screaming into the press. A poleaxe comes down like a falling beam and caves in a helmet with a noise you will hear later in your sleep. The mud is slick now, churned with blood, and every step threatens to put you on your back. You see a man fall and vanish under boots, his scream cut off as his face is pressed into the ground. Time stretches and compresses. Seconds feel like minutes. Minutes disappear. Your lungs burn. Your arms feel heavy, slow, as if underwater. You're aware of thirst but can't remember the last time you drank. The line holds, somehow. The pressure is constant, relentless, like leaning into a storm. Then something shifts. You hear shouting behind the enemy line, not panic yet, but confusion. Orders repeated, then contradicted. You don't know what it means, but you feel it, like a change in wind. The men in front of you glance sideways just for a heartbeat, and that heartbeat is enough. Someone surges forward, and suddenly you're stepping over bodies instead of being pushed back. Banner goes down. You don't know whose at first. Cloth collapses into the mud, trampled instantly. Men scream in rage or fear. You can't tell which, and the fighting tightens, becomes vicious and personal. Faces are close enough to smell breath through visors. You drive your weapon forward and feel resistance, then a terrible give. The man staggers, drops his sword and sinks to his knees, hands clutching his stomach. You don't look back. Above the chaos, a new sound cuts through. Hooves, heavy, fast. A roar builds, not of voices but of mass in motion. You turn just enough to see it through thinning mist. Armoured horsemen bursting forward, a tight wedge of steel and muscle. At their head, a figure gleams brighter than the rest, gold circlet catching the light like a promise or a threat. They are not aiming at you. They are aiming past you, toward the rear, toward the cluster of men around the red dragon banner. The realization hits like ice in your gut. This isn't a charge to break the line. This is a kill shot. The impact is catastrophic. Horses smash into men who don't have time to brace. Bodies fly, spears snap. A standard bearer goes down hard, crushed beneath a horse's chest, the banner disappearing under mud and blood. The mounted figure keeps coming, unstoppable, cutting through guards like they're not there. You hear his voice, hoarse, furious, shouting a word that sounds like accusation itself. For a moment, everything hangs on that moving point of steel. If it reaches its target, this ends now. You see Henry Tudor in flashes, face pale, eyes wide, backing away with his sword up like a man holding a stick against a flood. He looks exactly like what he is, a man who knows he shouldn't be here. Then horns sound from the flank, not the hill, not your line, from the side, fresh, sharp, undeniable. You turn, heart hammering, and see a new wave of horsemen pouring in, banners unfamiliar, moving fast and clean. They slam into the charging knights from the side with brutal precision. Armour collides, horses scream and rear. Men are dragged from saddles and disappear under hooves. The golden figure is swallowed by bodies. The noise becomes a scream of metal and flesh. The charge collapses inward, a knot of violence tightening as more men pile in. You lose sight of everything but the press in front of you, but you feel it. The shift from terror to something else. Hope, maybe. Or just the enemy breaking. Someone shouts that the king is down. You don't know if it's true, but the words spread faster than arrows ever could. The men in front of you hesitate. Then they turn. Then they run. You don't chase. You can't. Your legs shake too badly. You lean on your weapon and suck air that tastes like smoke and blood, watching the hill empty itself of men who were certain of victory an hour ago. Somewhere out there, in the mud, a crown is falling, and the ground doesn't care who wore it. The battle isn't over yet, but something irreversible has happened. You feel it in your bones. Whatever England was when you woke up this morning, it is not that anymore. The noise never truly stops. Even after the line breaks, even after men start running instead of pushing, the battlefield keeps making sound. Wet footsteps, choking coughs, the distant clang of iron where someone refuses to let go. You move without thinking now, body running on whatever fuel is left, following the mass forward because stopping feels more dangerous than advancing. The fog is thinning, not lifting cleanly, just tearing in strips, revealing flashes of horror like lightning in slow motion. A horse lies on its side, chest heaving, eyes rolling white as a man trapped beneath it screams and pounds uselessly at the ground. You pass them both. You tell yourself you'll come back. You won't. The enemy's retreat isn't clean, is not a disciplined withdrawal, it's collapse. Men throw down weapons to run faster. Armour becomes a liability. You see a knight struggling to pull free of his breastplate, fingers slick with blood, panic stripping away rank and training. Someone spears him through the back before he finishes. He drops face first, half naked, the steel still tangled around his torso like a coffin he built himself. Your calves cramp. Your throat feels raw, scraped by every breath. The adrenaline that carried you through the first clash is burning out, leaving behind a shaking weakness that makes your hands feel oversized and clumsy. You tighten your grip anyway. You've seen what happens to men who don't. To your right, the mounted fighters, fresh, organized, are cutting across the field, not chasing blindly, but herding the broken enemy toward the marsh. It's deliberate, smart. The ground there will do half the killing. You watch a cluster of men try to cross it, boots sinking deeper with every step. One falls. Two try to pull him free and get stuck themselves. Panic spreads faster than mud. Arrows arc in and end the argument. Someone near you laughs, a sharp, hysterical sound that dies when he slips and nearly goes down. Nobody joins him. There's no joy in this, only release, the pressure easing as the threat moves away from your face and towards someone else's back. You step over a body and realize it's still moving. The man's eyes lock on yours, wide and pleading, mouth working soundlessly. His leg is gone below the knee, shredded to meat. You hesitate for a heartbeat too long. Another soldier behind you thrusts downward without slowing. The man goes still. You keep moving, ashamed of the relief that follows. Shouts ripple through the ranks. Words fragment, distorted by distance and chaos. But one phrase comes back again and again. The king. Down. Dead. Maybe. Nobody knows for sure, but belief is enough. You see it in how the remaining resistance collapses, how officers stop trying to rally men who no longer want to hear orders. The hill that looked so invincible at dawn is emptying now, spilling men downhill like debris after a landslide. Cannons sit abandoned, their crews gone or dead, black mouths pointing uselessly at a sky that doesn't care. Smoke drifts lazily, no longer urgent. You reach a knot of fighting where it's still close and brutal. A handful of armoured men have backed themselves against a stand of trees, refusing to run. They fight like cornered animals, swinging heavy, desperate blows. One of them takes a spear in the chest and keeps coming for 3 steps before collapsing, armour clanging like dropped tools. Another slips on blood and goes down hard, visor snapping shut as a boot comes down on his neck. It's over quickly. Too quickly. The silence afterward feels unnatural, like the world holding its breath. You stand there, chest heaving, staring at your hands. They're shaking violently now, muscles misfiring as the last of the fight drains out of you. You try to wipe blood off your face and smear it instead, streaking your cheek with someone else's life. The smell clings to everything. Iron, waste, wet leather, and you know it will follow you long after today. Somewhere behind you, a roar goes up. Not the wild scream of combat, but a unified sound, rough and disbelieving. You turn and see men gathering, pointing toward a cluster near the marsh. You push closer, drawn by instinct more than curiosity. The ground there is torn apart, churned into a dark slurry. Bodies lie tangled together, horses and men indistinguishable in places. In the centre, a small space has opened, not by command, but by unease. Men step back without being told. You catch a glimpse of a figure on the ground, armour battered, helmet gone, hair matted with mud and blood. The wounds are shocking. Not clean, not noble. The back of the skull is destroyed, caved in by something heavy, something swung with full intent. The face is slack, eyes half-lidded, mouth open as if caught mid-breath. This is not how kings are supposed to look, but no one here pretends otherwise. You feel a strange pull in your chest. Not pity, exactly, but the cold recognition that this could have been anyone. Power didn't save him. Steel didn't save him. Numbers didn't save him. A man near you spits. Another makes the sign of the cross. Nobody speaks loudly. The moment is too raw, too close to the killing. You back away, suddenly desperate for space. Orders start to reappear, shaky at first, then firmer, as men remember they are still alive and still soldiers. Wounded are dragged out of the mud. Some scream, some don't. You help lift a man whose arm hangs at the wrong angle, bone pushing against skin. He whimpers like a child and grips your sleeve with his good hand, nails digging in. You don't tell him it will be all right. You don't know that. The field changes as the hours crawl by. What was chaos becomes inventory. Weapons are gathered, banners recovered or trampled. The dead are searched quickly, efficiently. Rings pulled from fingers, purses cut free, no ceremony. Survival doesn't leave room for it. You hear that a crown has been found, knocked loose during the fighting, crushed into the dirt like everything else. Men cluster again, drawn by the idea of it. When you see it, it's smaller than you expected, bent slightly, dull with grime. It doesn't glow, it doesn't feel magical. It's just metal shaped by human hands, heavy with meaning only because people decide it is. Someone lifts it, someone else shouts. The sound swells, rolls across the field, and for the first time since dawn you feel something close to stillness settle in your bones. Not peace, just an ending. You sink down onto a patch of ground that isn't entirely soaked and let your weapon fall from your hands. Your fingers ache as if burned. Your ears ring. When you close your eyes, you still see movement. Charging horses, falling men, etched into the dark. Around you, survivors sit or stand in stunned silence, each trapped inside his own body, his own memories of the last few hours. You realize that whatever comes next, crowns, proclamations, rewards, this is the moment that will last. The feel of mud on your knees, the weight of exhaustion pressing you down, the knowledge that you lived while so many didn't, for reasons that have nothing to do with deserving. The battlefield stretches out under a clearing sky, littered with proof. England has changed here, not in speeches or laws, but in blood and breath and broken bone. You were inside it when it happened, and no matter how far you walk from this place, part of you will stay sunk in this ground, listening to a silence that was earned the hardest way possible. Night falls without mercy. The field doesn't cool so much as congeal, heat trapped beneath armour and wet clothes, bodies still radiating the last stubborn warmth of life. Fires are lit in shallow pits, their smoke low and greasy, clinging to the ground. Light flickers over faces that look older than they did at dawn. Nobody sits comfortably. Every position pulls on a bruise you didn't know you had. You try to eat and fail. Bread turns to paste in your mouth. Your jaw aches from clenching it all day. Someone passes a skin of ale and you drink too fast, coughing as it burns down your throat and wakes your stomach like an insult. Around you, men murmur in fragments, names called into the dark, curses muttered, prayers whispered with the urgency of bargaining. The wounded moan in uneven rhythms, a chorus with no conductor. They bring torches into the marsh to look for the missing. You watch the light move like insects over black water, hear the squelch and splash as men wade in, testing each step with poles. Every now and then a shout goes up, and the light gathers, revealing a shape hauled free, sometimes breathing, sometimes not. When it's not, the torch lifts higher, as if brightness could change the outcome. Sleep doesn't come. When you close your eyes, the ground tilts, and the sounds rush back in. You feel again the jolt of impact, the momentary resistance before something gave way. Your hands twitch as if still gripping a weapon. You open your eyes and stare at the fire until they sting. Sometime deep in the night, the body is moved. Quietly. Not with ceremony, but with care that feels deliberate after the day's savagery. Men clear a path without being told. You don't follow, but you know where it's going, toward the town where stone walls and narrow streets will receive what the field spat out. The knowledge settles heavy in your chest. The fighting may be over, but the accounting has begun. By morning, the field smells worse. Sunlight exposes everything the fog hid. The unnatural angles of limbs, the way armour dents inward instead of out, the dark stains that mark where men bled out slowly. Flies appear as if summoned, blackening wounds within minutes. You pull cloth over your mouth and nose and keep working. Work fills the hours because it has to. The dead are separated from the living. Familiar faces are found and stared at too long. You help dig shallow pits where the ground allows it, piling bodies in with a rough efficiency that makes your stomach knot. A priest moves among you, voice hoarse, blessing groups at once to save time. God, it seems, understands triage. You're sent toward the town with a detail escorting wagons. The road is narrow, rutted, bordered by hedges that seem to lean into watch. Villagers stand back as you pass, eyes wide, hands tight on aprons and tools. Some cross themselves, Some don't. A few smile too quickly and then stop, realizing it's too soon. The wagons creak under their loads. You don't look too closely at what's inside. Inside the walls, the air is different, less open. The sounds bounce. Word has arrived ahead of you, and the streets are lined despite the early hour. People press forward, craning, hungry for proof. They get it. The sight changes the noise. Cheers burst out, sharp and startling, mixed with jeers that scrape the skin. Spittle flies. Someone throws something soft that bursts against wood. You flinch. The distance between the field and this feels obscene. Yesterday, men died in your arms. Today, strangers shout at what's left. The body is displayed long enough to make the point and no longer. You don't stay to see where it goes next. Orders circulate, clean and legal, now that the blood has dried. Men are told where to report, what to guard, what not to touch. Names are written down, oaths repeated. The shape of the future is being hammered out with words instead of weapons, and it's almost disorienting. Henry Tudor appears briefly, surrounded by men who weren't there when the line first met. He looks smaller than the idea of him, face drawn, eyes red-rimmed. When people shout his name, he nods, the motion careful, as if any sudden movement might shatter him. You realize he's shaking too, just better dressed. Power doesn't cancel the body. It just hides it. They say the crown was placed on his head in the field, but you didn't see it. What you see now is a man being carried forward by momentum he didn't fully create. You feel a flicker of something like sympathy and crush it. Sympathy is dangerous. It asks questions you can't afford. The next days blur into motion, marching, standing watch, being counted. Rumours move faster than orders, who betrayed whom, who stood still when he should have advanced, who will be rewarded, who will disappear quietly. You learn to listen without reacting. The war taught you that attention can get you killed. Peace teaches you it can get you ruined. Letters are read aloud, proclamations delivered with practiced voices. Dates are adjusted, words chosen with surgical care. You don't understand all of it, but you understand the intent. The past is being edited while the ink is still wet. The men who fought on the wrong side feel it first. They grow cautious, then desperate. Some flee. Some swear loyalty louder than anyone else. At night you dream of running and not moving, of shouting and making no sound. You wake with your heart pounding and your jaw clenched hard enough to ache. The field comes back in pieces, the fog, the charge, the sudden horn from the flank. You replay it, searching for a moment where things could have gone another way. You don't find one that matters. You're ordered south. The road stretches, familiar and foreign at once. Villages along the way offer bread and wary smiles. Children stare at your scars like they're maps. You avoid mirrors when you can, but sometimes a polished helm catches your reflection, and you pause, startled. You look leaner, harder, like someone who survived something and isn't sure why. When London rises ahead, stone and smoke and noise, you feel a tightening in your chest that has nothing to do with fear. The city hums with expectation. Bells ring. Flags appear. The story is already ahead of you, louder and cleaner than the truth you carry. You stand in a crowd and watch the procession pass, the pageantry thick enough to choke on. Silk and gold, rehearsed smiles, blessings that fall like confetti. People cheer because cheering feels safer than silence. You cheer too, because not cheering feels dangerous. As the sound swells, you think of the field again, not the clash, but the quiet afterward. The way the ground drank everything and asked for more. You think of faces that won't be here to see this, men who did their work and vanished into the soil. The distance between that place and this feels vast and fragile, like it could tear if pulled too hard. You don't know what the future will demand of you. More fighting, maybe, more watching, more forgetting. But you know this. Something essential ended in the mud, and something colder took its place. The world is moving on already, and it will not wait for you to catch up. That night, as the city settles and the bells finally quiet, you lie awake and listen to your own breathing. It's steady. It's yours, for now. The city teaches you a different kind of pressure. On the field, danger came from the front. Here it presses from all sides, invisible and constant. Stone walls hold sound the way armor holds heat. Every alley smells like bodies packed too close. Sweat, waste, old smoke. And the echo of footsteps makes you feel followed even when no one is there. You're assigned to guard duty near the river, a stretch of damp stone where boats nose in with cargo and rumours. The water moves slowly, carrying scraps of refuse and the occasional bloom of the oil. You stand for hours, spear-grounded, eyes forward, learning the new rules. Don't stare, don't comment, don't ask. Loyalty now is measured in stillness. Men come and go with messages sealed in wax, faces tight, voices low. Names circulate like currency. Some you recognise from the field, some you don't. A few stop appearing altogether. No announcement follows. Absence does the talking. At night the river smells sweeter than the streets. You breathe it in and pretend it cleans you. It doesn't. Sleep remains shallow, fractured by noise. Drunken singing, a sudden shout. The clatter of hooves at now when no one should be riding. Each sound spikes your pulse, and each time you steady it, you feel foolish for having to. The first executions happen quietly, not public, not theatrical, just efficient. You hear about them after, never before. A man you shared bread with is suddenly gone, his post filled by someone who doesn't meet your eyes. The lesson is simple. Survival didn't end at Bosworth. It changed shape. Henry's court settles into itself with surprising speed. Tents become chambers. Mud becomes marble. The shift feels wrong, like putting clean clothes on a body that hasn't finished bleeding. Advisors cluster close, speaking in controlled tones. Every decision carries weight because every decision creates enemies. You see Henry again from a distance, moving through a hall with measured steps. He wears the crown now, but it looks heavier than armour ever did. His face has lost its softness, sharpened by sleepless nights and calculation. When he speaks, people lean in. When he pauses, they hold their breath. This is power, not loud, not dramatic, but relentless. Orders come down that change how the past is spoken about. Dates adjusted, allegiances redefined. Words like traitor and loyalist slide into place as if they've always belonged there. You feel the ground shift under your memory. What you live through is being reframed, cleaned up, pressed into a story that fits better on parchment. You keep your mouth shut, it's easier. The city hums with anticipation for the coronation. Craftsmen work through the night. Cloth is unfurled, banners raised. The noise is constant, a mechanical buzz of preparation that leaves no space to think. Crowds swell, pressing in, hungry for spectacle. They want proof that this change is real, that it means something beyond their own empty cupboards. On the morning of the ceremony, the bells start early. They roll across the rooftops and into your bones. You're positioned along the route, shoulder to shoulder with other guards, faces set, eyes scanning. The crowd is dense, a wall of bodies that shifts and sighs. Children sit on shoulders, old men lean on sticks. Everyone looks toward the same point, waiting. When the procession comes, it's blinding. Gold catches the sun, silk ripples. The sound swells until it feels physical, like pressure on your chest. Henry rides past, posture rigid, hands steady. He looks forward, not at the faces screaming his name. You understand why. Looking would invite attachment. Attachment invites weakness. As he passes, a woman near you drops to her knees, sobbing. Whether from joy or relief you can't tell. A man throws a cap into the air and shouts until his voice breaks. The noise washes over you, and for a moment you feel outside your body, watching yourself stand there, a piece of furniture holding the room together. The ceremony itself is distant, muffled by walls and rank. You don't hear the words, only the roar that follows, released like steam. When it's done, the city exhales and surges at once, celebration spilling into streets and taverns. Drums beat. Awful flows. The night ignites with song. You don't join in, you drift to the edge of it, where sound thins and shadows grow long. The river is there again, patient as ever. You sit on a stone step and let the cold seep through your clothes, grounding you. A man sits nearby without asking. He's older, scarred, eyes sharp. You recognize him from the field, from a moment when everything could have tipped another way. He doesn't speak for a long time. When he does, It's barely above the water's whisper. "Keep your head down," he says. "This part kills more men than the fighting." You nod. It feels like advice and a warning. In the days that follow, marriages are announced, lands reassigned, old debts called in, new ones created. The machinery of rule grinds forward, indifferent to those caught in its teeth. You watch men reinvent themselves overnight, swearing loyalties with convincing fervour. You learn to spot the ones who believe it and the ones who don't. Both can be dangerous. You're reassigned again, farther from the centre. It feels like exile and relief at once. The air is quieter, the work is dull. Dull is good. You start to notice small things again. The way sunlight warms stone, the taste of bread when you're actually hungry, the rhythm of your own footsteps. But the war hasn't left you. It rides under your skin. Sudden noises still snap your attention. Crowds make you tense. When you close your eyes, the charge returns sometimes. The thunder of hooves bearing down, the instant where everything balanced on inches. One afternoon, word reaches you that the former king's body has been buried. Not with ceremony, not where kings should lie. Quickly, discreetly, as if even in death he's inconvenient. You picture the field again, the ruined skull, the slack mouth. You wonder what it means to win if this is how the losing side is erased. That night you walk the river longer than usual. The city lights ripple on the water, broken and beautiful. You think about the men who won't see this, who won't stand watch or hear bells or complain about sore feet. You think about how easily stories replace bodies, how quickly blood dries into ink. You are still here. That fact feels heavier now than it did when survival meant swinging a weapon. Staying alive requires a different kind of discipline. Quiet, patience, the willingness to let parts of yourself calcify. As you head back to your post, the bells begin again. Slower this time, marking hours instead of moments. The city settles. Somewhere, decisions are being made that will shape years you can't imagine yet. You take your place, spear grounded, eyes forward, breathing steady. The war taught you how to endure impact. This new world will teach you how to endure time. Time doesn't heal the way people promise. It layers. Days stack on days until the sharp edges dull, not because they're gone, but because they're buried. You learn this slowly, standing watch in places that used to matter and now don't, guarding doors that lead to rooms where decisions are made without you. Winter comes early that year. The cold bites harder near the river, wind sliding through gaps in stone and wool alike. Your breath fogs the air, steady, visible proof that you're still here. You count it sometimes when the night stretches too long. Inhale, exhale, because counting keeps memory from wandering where it shouldn't. Men rotate in and out of your unit. New faces arrive clean, eyes bright with ambition or fear. Old ones leave quietly, transferred, dismissed, swallowed by the city's appetite. You stop asking where they go. The answers don't change anything. The stories settle into place around you, firming like mortar. The new king's version becomes the only version that matters. Songs pick up refrains you recognize and smooth over the rough parts. The charge becomes heroic. The killing becomes necessary. The mess becomes destiny. You hear it repeated enough that it starts to sound plausible, even to you. But the body remembers what the mouth repeats. Your hands still tighten when hooves echo on stone. Your shoulders brace when a crowd surges. You dream of mud more than blood now, of being slowed, pulled down, unable to move while noise crashes overhead. You wake damp with sweat, heart racing, and sit up until the room feels solid again. You're given leave one afternoon, a rarity, and you take it without enthusiasm. You walk instead of resting, letting your feet choose familiar routes. The city has changed already. New signs, repaired walls, fresh paint over old smoke. Vendors shout, children chase each other through alleys, life asserting itself with stubborn force. Near the market, you see a man arguing with a clerk over a deed, voice rising. The clerk stays calm, reciting terms that sound absolute. The man's face flushes, then drains. He lowers his voice and nods. When he turns away, you catch his eye. Recognition flickers and dies. Whatever he was before, he isn't that now. You buy bread and eat it slowly by the river, watching boats drift past. They carry grain, timber, cloth, ordinary things. moving because the world insists on continuing. The simplicity of it feels almost obscene. You wipe crumbs from your hands and sit longer than necessary, listening to water slap against stone. News travels that the former king's resting place is unmarked, easily missed. It feels deliberate. Erasure as policy. You think of the field again, the open sky, the way death didn't care about names. You wonder who gets remembered and why, and how much of that has anything to do with truth. Spring loosens the city's grip. The air warms and with it tempers soften. Festivals return cautiously, like animals testing ground after fire. You're assigned to crowd control, standing at the edges while music swells and bodies press together. The sound vibrates through you, uncomfortable but alive. A drunk stumbles into you and laughs, slapping your shoulder in apology. You tense, then relax when he moves on. You realize with a quiet shock that you didn't reach for your weapon. The reflex is fading, not gone, but slower. That feels like progress and loss at the same time. Months pass. You're promoted slightly, enough to matter in small rooms. You listen more than you speak. When you do speak, it's careful. You learn which words open doors and which close them. Survival has taught you its second lesson. Violence is loud, but longevity is quiet. One evening, you're tasked with escorting a small procession to a religious house on the city's edge. No crowds, no banners, just a few men and a wagon moving at dusk. You don't ask what's inside, you don't need to, the shape of it presses into your awareness anyway. As you walk, the road narrows, trees closing in. The wagon creaks softly, someone murmurs a prayer. You keep your eyes forward, but your mind drifts back to that moment in the marsh, the space that opened around a fallen body. The way men stepped back, unsure what to do with the sudden end of something enormous. The procession stops. The wagon is unloaded. Earth waits. The work is quick, efficient. When it's done, the ground looks like ground again. No marker, no flourish. Just dirt, tamped down, indifferent. On the walk back, the sky deepens to indigo. Stars appear one by one. You breathe them in, feeling smaller than you did on the field, and steadier for it. Power ends. Time doesn't. Years will pass. You know this now. Kings will rule and die. Laws will be written, broken, rewritten. Children will grow up hearing stories polished smooth by repetition. Some will believe them, some won't care. Most will live their lives without ever thinking about the marsh where a world shifted. You will remember, not everything, memory edits too, but enough. The weight of armor, the drag of mud, the sound of a horn from the flank that changed everything. The look on a man's face when he realized steel and courage weren't enough. One night, long after the bells have faded and the river runs dark, you sit alone and clean your weapon out of habit. The metal gleams softly in lamplight, unscarred now. You think about setting it aside, about who you might be without it. The thought doesn't frighten you the way it once did. You wrap it carefully and store it where it won't be easily reached. Not discarded, just rested. Outside, the city sleeps. Somewhere beyond its walls, fields grow over old wounds, grass rooting itself in places soaked once with blood. The ground doesn't remember names, but it holds everything all the same. You lie down and listen to your breathing until it slows. Tomorrow will bring duties and decisions that feel important in their moment. You'll meet them the way you've learned to meet everything since that day, present, restrained, alive. The war took its cut. History took its shape. What remains is quieter and harder to measure. The steady act of carrying on step by step, away from the mud, without ever fully leaving it behind.